Hello, everyone. This is again all about project. I'm Radka, and today I'm really happy because I can welcome a new guest, Alena Damborska, psychiatrist and researcher, and a person who is, I think, absolutely equipped with the experience that is up to date. Because on 12th of April, new call for proposals for postdoctoral fellowships of Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions financed from Horizon Europe was open. So I think many of you are probably in the situation that you start to read the call and start to consider how to start, where to start. Is there any opportunity for me? So for this reason, I thought it would be wonderful to welcome someone who was successful with his very first application for the call for proposal directed to postdoctoral fellowship. She got financed. She already spent her 2 years in Switzerland. And today, Alena is going to share her experiences with us in order to inspire or motivate you to write your own project proposal. So hello, Alena. Hello from Liberec to Brno.
Hello, I'm very pleased that you invited me, and it's a great honor to be here with you.
Well, I am honored because honestly, I should probably, like with all the people I have invited so far, I had some kind of personal interactions. And unfortunately, I have not met Alena in person before. But the great thing that Alena did for me was when a year ago I had a webinar, and to me, it honestly is really uncomfortable because I loved doing trainings because of this interaction with people. It gives you a lot to see the feedback. And while you do the webinars, people suddenly became just words, just names. You don't have faces connected with names. So I was always so pleased when someone gave me some kind of feedback or even thanked me. And Alena was so kind that she sent me an email to thank me for the webinar. And there were two things why I was happy. Number one, that I got some kind of feedback. And number two, it was a webinar on leadership. And I touched a couple of things related to psychology and personalities and so on. And when a psychiatrist tell you, well, it was okay, I thought, wow, I didn't make any mistake. So I was really relieved. And that was the reason why I always remembered Alena. And when I started with this project, I thought, wow, well, this lady, she was really interesting and she had really interesting research topic and really challenging one. So let's try to ask her whether she would be so kind and share her experiences with us. So Alena is here today. So probably, Alena, it will be the best if you yourself introduce briefly your research topic, because I know you investigate topics related to depression. We just had a brief discussion about it, but just tell everyone who would be interested in what you do, what is your topic? Thank you.
Okay. So nice to meet you. Once again, I'm very happy I can share with you my experience. My topic of the research is aimed at affective disorders, which means mainly depressive episodes. I started as a physiologist, so I'm not a very long time psychiatrist, only since 2015. And before I started to work at Department of Psychiatry, I focused on physiology of the function of the brain, mainly the higher brain functions like cognitive functions, and I investigated cognitive functions using intracranial electrodes, which I did using data from patients who suffer from epilepsy and who underwent the surgery for the epilepsy, and during this surgery they received intracranial electrodes, so inside the brain. So it was the opportunity for me as a physiologist who was interested in the normal function of the brain to investigate the function of the brain using these electrodes, which were outside the focus of the epilepsy, because when these electrodes were put to find the focus of the epilepsy, but of course they were put in the brain also outside the focus, and these sites were interesting for me, so I use this. So this was my first part of the research before I came to psychiatry, and now I'm more focused on the brain, or on the problems with the brain, so the pathology of the brain, but not the neurologic point of view, but the psychiatric. So I'm focused on the affective disorders and use not the intracranial recording, but the surface recording, electroencephalography again, and I look for the biomarkers of these affective disorders that we can use in the treatment response prediction, or the objective evaluation of the severity of the disease. So this is the main topic.
Wow.
Nowadays.
So thank you for this introduction, which is again wonderful, because once people start to read the call for proposals or the instruction to it, they will read quite frequently the word multidisciplinarily. So when you talk about it, obviously this was such a natural connection between you doing physiology, or well, was it physiology at first? Physiology-related research. Yeah. And then because you wanted to know more, you entered a different scientific field. And so this is the multidisciplinarity, the logic of it. It should come smoothly. It shouldn't be anything forced. It just is meant to be natural, because you want to get better replies to your answer, to your questions. So you need kind of more knowledge from different fields. So you entered different field in order to get better replies.
I think it was one of the crucial points of my CV, that I really moved from the physiology to pathology, and from one type of method to another, that I learned another method of the analysis of the brain function. I think it was important. Yeah. If I stayed all the time in physiology department, I would not get this grant, I hope.
Yeah. So this is again an important thing for everyone who is watching. CV is really important part of your project application. You tell your personal story of who you are as a researcher by your CV. And well, obviously you can't craft it unless you really did the things. So just be careful how you kind of craft your research career, and be cautious to always explore new things, because this is, and I don't know, unfortunately, but this is the way we perform research, or the research is seen these days. You need to be creative, always open. And honestly, this is nothing fancy, new. This comes from history of humankind. Whenever you are exposed to a new environment, new ideas, you get better replies to your own questions from your own field. If I'm not mistaken, how about psychiatrists? God, that's a word. Okay, how about scientific point of view? To this creativity. Anyway, I'm not going to bother you with my problems with pronunciation of long English words, but I'm going to ask you directly. So you applied for funding with postdoctoral fellowship, and I remember you mentioned it was your first big project. Am I right? Yeah.
Yes. Before this application, I spent short fellowships within other projects, but these projects, I was not the main applicant for these projects. I was just the member of the team. So before this project, this application, I wrote, two maybe applications for local, national agencies, and I didn't succeed. So why I decided, if I can start, why I decided to write this application, it was connected to my to move from the Department of Physiology to Department of Psychiatry. When I was on the new place, I was thinking what to do now, what to do next in my career, and I knew that I need some longer fellowship, postdoctoral fellowship, and I looked for the opportunities. Honestly, I knew this call and this program, but I didn't know at that time how prestigious and how prestigious it is, and how low chances I have. I didn't know this. If I knew it, probably I would not apply, but I didn't know. I didn't know. So I quite freely wrote or started to think about it. And it was about 1 year before the deadline. So it was in September that I was thinking about it. But only in March, today we have April. So in March, I attended a first workshop where they give us some first information about it and how to do it, and then I started. But it was just the enthusiasm about me. It was also the first time that I started to write my CV. Before that, I was not. I lived, created my life and CV, but I haven't wrote it yet by this time. So
this is cute what you have just said, because it sounds like the first idea I got in my mind was like, ignorance is bliss sometimes, because you were not intimidated by the fact that there is a huge competition. And this, I think, sort of relates probably to the recent findings about also how words work in our brain. So talking to someone who studies the brain. So sometimes it's just better not to create crazy images in your own head, because you just don't know what other people tell you.
Yeah, I think when you write a proposal, you should think, you should try to write it the best way you are able. And it's no use to think about your chances. Anyway, you can translate in your brain that it's 50-50. Either you get it or not. There are only two possibilities. Nothing else. And it will not help you to think and to know whether there are chances 50% or 10% or 5%. You try, when you decide to write it, you should not think about it. Just write it the best way you want. You are able, and enjoy it. I enjoyed writing it.
This absolutely relates to my own personal experience. Whenever I kind of was in tune with the process, and I didn't write the project for the money, I wrote the project because I was so interested in the topic, and I just, I could imagine myself doing it, and I was really enjoying writing. I got the money, and each time when I was more motivated by things like, well, I could do this because there is money available, most of the times I didn't get it. And when I got the finances, I wasn't happy with the product anyway. So I think this kind of unmeasurable intuition which we have inside of us, and doing things from heart and just 100% from how we feel about things, I think that helps us to overcome situations which might seem to be challenging sometimes, which writing project can be for many people. But if you really let your mind be overflowed and overpowered by all the statistics and all people telling you do this and don't do that, so I sometimes think it may turn out into disaster. But anyway, your situation didn't turn out into disaster. So we are now in March. You decided you will gradually start to write, think about. And so you started with your CV, and you told me that it was actually the first time you put all the activities you did together in your CV, and that you quite enjoyed the process. So did you like writing your CV? Did you use the template, or you started? What was your process of creating the CV? So did you use their template, or?
Actually, I don't remember if there was some template, but if there was, I used it. Yes.
There is a template,
yeah, there is a template. I had also this book that I read, and there was instructions what you can put in your CV. So at the first time, I collected the information before I started to write. So I put remarks in this book, which I received at the workshop. I just collected all the information, because sometimes you don't think this information is important, and then you can include it in your CV. So this book helped me, or these instructions that we received during the workshop helped me to find relevant information that can be put in my CV. So I started with collecting the information, and then I started to write it. It was the first part of the writing the project, to write the CV, and it was really enjoyable thing. I enjoyed it because it's about me. Yeah, I was thinking about my life, so it was good.
That's wonderful. But again, there is a really important moment which you mentioned. You were showing the booklet you got on that training. So it seems like that you kind of could enjoy the service someone else provided you with, that they summarized all the information and they kind of introduced you to the environment and gave you all the relevant information which you read, understood, thanks to the written text and the training. And then you kind of, I always imagine it like you had a space around you, and then you look at your own life and you just try to position your own life within this space. So of course, for example, I wouldn't have that many publications if I would be writing CV, but I saw, okay, I had lots of projects, I had lots of other activities, I organized lots of training. So I think it navigates people, but it doesn't tell you, okay, it has to be this or that way. It's very individual, it's up to you. But we give you guidelines, what you could tell us about yourself in order to introduce what kind of researcher are you, because, well, we only can read from how many pages it was, the CV, I think 2, or it's not very long.
I think it was two pages. I don't remember.
Not that long, yeah. For the whole life.
Yeah. Sometimes it was difficult to delete some parts. But I have one point. This booklet had 66 pages, and it really well navigated me. But it was a bit frustrating for me that I knew the time is going, and I am still just reading a booklet. Yeah, but it was, I think, very important to read it through and to collect the information, and only then start to write.
Yeah. And again, I would call this patience. We really need patience with our own mind and our own thinking when it comes to project writing. And the other day, because I'm interested in creativity, creative skills and writing, I came across a really interesting idea, and it was related to like authors writing novels. And they said the most writing happens actually when you don't type. It happens when you think it over, when you prepare your plots, when you prepare your characters. And this is exactly what we sometimes kind of overlook, that it is a valuable time you spend with the information, collecting the information, reading and understanding the environment where I'm going to apply with my project. And then let your brain do the work for you. Choose the right things. And as you mentioned, deleting things. Well, that's it. You edit your own information. That's wonderful, isn't it?
That's true, because when you are collecting all the information, thinking about all the things, and you spend enough time. So when at the moment you start to write, your brain is bursting because it's full of ideas, and you write very quickly because you want to get rid of all these ideas, and you are full of these ideas. So the writing is much easier when you are full of these ideas and informations.
So it sounds like, and probably this is an idea we could advise people to do, just absorb at the beginning, and don't be kind of cruel to yourself that you don't kind of visually produce something at the moment. Because you are producing, you're kind of cooking ideas in your head, and you need to be really gentle with yourself in this moment, because you are maturing your ideas. I would call it maturing ideas.
That's true. And it was, of course, easier to write the CV than to write the proposal. So maybe this is why my instructor, or a person who helped me to write the project, advised me to start with the CV. So I write first the CV, I trained the writing, and the real project I started to write only at the half of July. I started writing the project in the middle of July, yes, which looks quite close to the deadline. But till that time, I was still reading this booklet and collecting the information and ideas and thinking about it. And only then I started, and it was really like storm in my brain. I started to write it.
So this is wonderful. So number one, you mentioned that you got project support, and it was kind of active project support. This person helped you to navigate yourself in this complex world. And obviously he chose the closest first step for you, which was the CV. CV was very natural to you. So you kind of grew into the process of project writing. It felt like, from what I heard from your story. But then you said that I started to write in July. But what we forgot to mention, that already when you started to work on your CV, you already had your research idea in mind. So yes, it was a kind of like parallel activity. So you already started to mature your CV ideas and write them. But at the same time, you kind of because you used the experience you had from those short stays, so probably you should mention how important were those short stays for you coming out with the new ideas.
Yes, these were again crucial, because in your proposal it should be visible that you know what you expect from the environment which you enter. Yeah, you should know the institution, and you should know it. It's better when you know the people there. In my proposal, I wrote the names of the people that I can use. I could use this information. Which person will learn me, will teach me this, and other way around. What can I transfer to these people? Not only to the institution, but the specific person. What I can teach them, and also it was important for me to know whether there are some PhD students that I could be a mentor for these students. So all these informations were very important for writing the proposal, and it was advantage for me that I knew people. Even though some of these people that I knew before I came to the lab, they disappeared, and in the end I cooperated with other people there. Yeah, but for writing the proposal, it was important that I mentioned the specific persons with which I will cooperate, and I also asked the people, communicated with them when I asked them, are there some courses, seminars that I could attend? So I got information from these people when I was in contact with them. They helped me to create the proposal in this way, just giving me the information.
It's wonderful, because I think I should mention here also, for the people who have never applied for this type of project, that although actually, of course, research project is in the center of Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action Project, but it is also hugely about career advancements. And I think this is a part of the project many people quite struggle with, because suddenly you are being asked, okay, where you see yourself after 2 years, what kind of skills you would like to improve. And many people just, never ever have written proposal like this. So then what you just mentioned, Alena, the fact that you knew people around you, that you knew the environment, you could already imagine yourself being there, what kind of skills you have, what kind of skills and knowledge they have, and how you can add and help to each other, which I think helped you a lot, because your questions then probably were a little bit better targeted, because I think you get better replies from people if your questions are more specific than asking, what could I get from you? Wow, what a wonderful question, everything. So how about short stays and the better questions that you were able to send to your possible hosts and collaborators? So can you remember some surprising inspiration you got in your short stays in terms of skills and knowledge, something that you really didn't expect you could learn?
from the short stages.
Yeah, if you got some inspiration in the short stays that would tell you, okay, this interesting direction I could go towards, I didn't expect before I knew the place that there are these options. So whether you got some kind of interesting input.
I can't remember exactly. Sorry.
No problem. I know sometimes the questions are crazy. You know, I'm just asking because sometimes when you do some kind of short activities, they might surprise you. So probably you didn't get such a big surprise.
I was not much surprised.
You were better prepared than I was. Probably I'm always in awe everywhere. So anyway, so we were talking about project support you got during you writing the proposal as such. So apart from getting ingredients from your future host institution, which was the same one as the one you stayed during the short stays, or not? Was it the same one?
Partly it because the first stay I spent at the hospital mainly, and the Marie Curie stay was at the university, but the people were similar. Yeah? It was the one lab which had cooperators within the university and the hospital. So it was a different institution, but the people were the same.
Yeah. So anyway, again, multisectoral. So this is something, again, we are giving meaning to words, because in the core you will be also asked to do some research that is kind of interacting between different sectors. So obviously you were in research, academia, and practice, real life, dealing with patients, dealing in real life environment. So this is again something that is really helpful if your research question is dealing with. But what I wanted to ask you, so now we know how staying in the environment where you would be hosted later helped you for creating ideas and for the better knowledge inflow into your project when you were trying to get all the information and see what is possible. But then you also mentioned the project support you got in Brno, wasn't it? When you were writing.
It was Brno.
And again, I really appreciated the fact that that project support, it was a colleague you had, you can mention his name because he really...
He was not a colleague. He was a project manager. So he was not a scientist. He was like a project support. Jakub Zaman is his name. I thank him very much.
But you know, this is something what I kind of wanted to touch a bit as well, because you said he wasn't a colleague, he was a project support. But well, what's the definition of colleague? Because obviously he was giving you feedback, he helped you a bit to create ideas.
I mean, he was not the scientist in my field, and he was employed as a project manager in the this office of the project support. So he was not working as a researcher.
Yeah, because the problem these days is that many people think that the project support should be just the administration, that people will give you the forms and fill in the forms, while what you mentioned is a little bit different kind of support, because he was helping.
Absolutely different.
Yeah. So could you tell me a bit about what kinds of support he provided you with and how it helped you? Because I think this is something in between. We have researchers, and then we have, of course, the administrative people are very important as well. But there is a gap between, and then you have these special project managers that can really help you to kind of be creative and think within the environment of project proposals and project financing. So what was the help he gave you?
He gave me everyday feedback. We shared the document, and he read all the document many times, and he co-created. He asked questions. He told me he knew the scheme, and he had experience with supporting other applicants with writing projects. So it was like individual navigating me writing the proposal. So it was very, very intense, this support. It was not like than just giving me some formulas to fill in. He really co-created the proposal with me.
So he was a kind of reviewer, editor.
Yeah. He was like a reviewer, which is not expert in the field. Yes, so he was. But this is also important that you write a project the way that people who are not expert in your field understand and are excited by the project. So I got this feedback.
This is absolutely perfect, because this is always how I felt my position when helping people. Just, being the stupid lay person and asking you questions, even the stupidest questions. So if you are able to convince someone who is, of course, motivated to help you, so if you are able to find the language and express your thoughts in such manner that you can convince someone like me, lay person, then probably it helps you to clear out your thinking process and expressing your ideas in words, because I think this is the greatest challenge in all this.
I remember one good advice he gave me, for example, when we were working on the risk management, and I was thinking, what is the risk of my project? And I could not imagine any risks. And then I thought, maybe when I come there, my mentor will not have enough time for me to mentor me. Yeah. So I wrote this risk, and what will be the mitigating action, what I will do. So I thought maybe I will keep in contact with my colleagues in Czech Republic, and on email I will consult these problems that I have, because my mentor in Switzerland has not enough time. And Jakub told me, you cannot write this in the proposal. This is absolutely impossible. So if you write this, it looks like there is no reason why to go to Switzerland when it's enough to consult it with your colleagues in Czech Republic. Yeah, so something like this feedback he gave me.
Which is wonderful, because this is something that we quite frequently don't think about. The fact that once we put words on paper, the person who is reading them is interpreting what we have written. And because words have meanings, and we give meanings to words based on our experiences, the culture we live in, and so on. So suddenly you might give different meanings to what you intended at the beginning. So obviously you just thought, I have no risks at all, and suddenly by just filling the gap by something, you would probably create some probably some challenge to your project. So that's great. So this editing, and well, actually, this is something that is also widely recommended before you submit your project proposal, to use the evaluation guideline. So to evaluate your project proposal, looking at it through the eyes of evaluators. So did you do this exercise as well with your colleague or with your project support?
We knew the evaluating criteria, and we tried to meet this. It's always good to know what are the most important points of the evaluation, and to feed the evaluating criteria to meet them the best.
So you were already, they were actually part probably of your booklet, weren't they, these evaluation criteria?
Yeah.
So they added already to the thinking process about the whole project proposal.
Yeah.
So wonderful. So obviously a couple of things. You started to think about it 1 year before you submitted, which was a nice long idea to mature your research idea, plus later also your career idea, what kind of skills you have. Oh, by the way, talking about skills, how you dealt with this, because you were asked about skills and knowledge. So did you have some kind of specific support in this? Because it's obviously human resources management. So how frequently do you talk about skills that you have and skills that you need to work on? So was it easy, this part of this project proposal, talking about career development?
I think it was not difficult. I just wrote what skills I have. For example, language skills. I settled the level. I knew English. I I am able to speak a little bit German, and because the institution was in Switzerland in the French-speaking part. I also mentioned my zero knowledge of French and that my ambition to learn a little bit French. Then the skills of the methods that I used. I was expert in the intracranial recording, but I was not experienced in the scalp recording, surface recording. So I made a table in which I wrote the different skills, at the moment the level of my skills at this moment before the proposal, and then the second column was the expected skill after the action is ended. Yeah, so this way, in the table, I presented my skill plan.
And how about the famous transferable skills? Did you have problem with this concept, transferable skills? Because they are so widely used, and many people just, well, kind of have a feeling what it is about, but how to tell what is my level of transferable skills and what kind of transferable skills I would like to improve on?
For example, I had no skills on leadership. Yeah, so I mentioned this, and again I created the table of the transferable skills, and it was important this contact with these people, which I could plan also my active presentations in specific seminars, and it was important that I knew that there is a seminar series at which I can present my results. I also I knew that there were lab meetings, and I specifically wrote what are the topics of the lectures that I will give at these lab meetings, not only the topics that are connected to the project, but also topics that are related to my previous research. Yeah. So I specifically planned what lectures I will give, what skills I will transfer to the institutions, and not only that I get something. It's important to have a mutual transfer, not only from the institution to me, but also what I can
give back.
Them. For example, the group was more focused on the neurological diseases, and in the group there were no psychiatrists. So from this point of view, I could bring something new, apply the methods that I will learn there, could be applied not only to the neurology, but also to the psychiatry.
Which is, you know, it's so amazing and astonishing, because it feels like the fact that you were physically there for a shorter period, that you could kind of unconsciously see what is around you. So later, when you were writing a project, suddenly you saw a new, what kind of value of this information that you got during your short stays. However, during these stays, obviously you were not focused on, well, who was teaching what and what kind of profiles people had. But suddenly, when it came to project writing, all these things came useful because you already knew them, and you didn't have to ask people about what you do and how can I help you. So
yes, during these short stays, I could identify the gaps in the lab that I can fill with my presence.
This is perfect, because many of my clients, they do this work while they are writing the project, because they have sometimes even never been before in the lab where they would like to be hosted. So they knew nothing, or they know nothing about the environment. So they always have to ask questions. And obviously, it's quite time consuming to reply always by emails. While if you come to the place and you just naturally talk to people and are part of the environment, so you don't have to ask always questions which are kind of answered by living your real life. So again, I think we should recommend to everyone who is writing or trying to write this project proposal to go to the place where they would like to be hosted, even if they didn't have opportunity like you had to be there for a short stay. But even I think even a couple of days could help, just to see the environment, to see people, how they are willing to collaborate, if they are open or not. Because from those kind of non-verbal signs, you can see how much people are really motivated to collaborate with you or not. Because sometimes in emails, they can promise you a lot of things, but later when you come to the place, and I think you could talk about this a lot as well, things turned out to be entirely different than you thought they would be. Okay, so now we were talking about project proposal writing. We highlighted the importance of knowing the environment, taking time off, for maturing the ideas before you start to write, and editing. Editing was really crucial in your story. So you did a lot of editing, lots of reviews, in help with your colleague, which was wonderful that you had someone, because I think this is so important not to be alone on this whole process, because otherwise it's just you and your brain and your interpretation of things, and because it is going to be reviewed by other people. So you really need different brains to read and communicate your project ideas. So now we summarized your project application phase, and let's go to the real life. So what happened when you got, and I think it was February, when you got results and you were told, well, lady, we consider your project to be excellent and you are going to be financed. So your first thought when you got the evaluation results?
I was happy, of course. Yeah. And surprised, and I was looking, and then at the moment I was also stressed, of course, yeah, because I had two children, my family, yeah, and it was before I started to write the project. I of course asked my husband whether I can write this project, and he said, yeah, write what you want, because he didn't believe we get something. Yeah. And then when I told him, well, we are going to move to Switzerland, so it was really like, it was shock for our children also, because I had two children, 13 and 15-year-old, so quite big children. And it was really challenging. I started to prepare the stay for the whole family.
Wow. So this is again something on paper, it looks wonderful because European Commission, they give you money for your family allowance. You know, at this moment, it is just an idea and money. And suddenly you came to the moment when it became reality. So in the reality, you went to Switzerland, which is not part of the European Union, with the whole family. So can you tell me a bit about the paperwork related to you going to Switzerland? So social health insurance of you, your family, taxes, what you had to do before you go to Switzerland. Was it complicated or not?
Again, it was when I look back, it was really complicated. But before I started to do it, I didn't know what to expect, and it went so smoothly, one after another, and everything you told I had to do, to health insurance, to look for the schools for the children, to look for the accommodation, and to pay the taxes. The taxes for me paying was in Czech Republic, in Switzerland, or also in France, because we live in France, and every day we cross the border to Switzerland. Yeah, it was easier to live in France than in Switzerland. So yeah, it was a lot of papers, a lot of administrative issues, but it's possible when you are so enthusiastic, you manage it, and we survived.
Yeah, which is again great, and again it refers to how we should work when we want to achieve something big. We are always recommended do small steps, and you again nicely summarize it. It seemed like a big thing when someone tells it, like it's a lot of paperwork. So many people might become overwhelmed, but because you were living the situation, so you did every time a small step, and so it didn't feel that overwhelming. It was just something, which is wonderful.
And I decided to go in advance, so I went there in May. And my family came only in August, so I spent their time to start the project, to prepare everything for the family, and also for the children. It was better to go there for one whole school year. So I went there in May, and family in August just came.
So again, if I may mention, so in each project, they always give you space for this kind of preparatory phase. And you need to be, well, I would say wise enough to know that whenever you move somewhere, you just can't start to work from the first day and live your life from the first day. You have to prepare something. And this is really, I consider it to be wise from the side of the European Commission, that they respect these periods. So they give you flexibility. Only you have to be reasonable enough to imagine that things like this might happen, and that I don't have to push things because you are not told you have to do this from the very beginning, but you can adjust the situation based how it feels to you. So this is again probably, because you had a little bit more experiences, so you did it kind of wisely and in more relaxed way.
Yeah. I don't know exactly what was the time span, that there are some deadlines still, what time you should start the project. I don't remember this exactly, but I knew that I want the children spend there the whole school year, and for me to come there as soon as possible to prepare it. So May was the best choice. And then I started it's a good point what you said. When I came there on the 1st of May, I started really to do the scientific work only 1 month later. The whole first month I was just doing this work permission, insurance for the health insurance, and looking for the accommodation, because I lived there at my friend's apartment, and I was looking for the accommodation for the whole family. So the first month I was just doing these preparatory things for the settlement of the family. And only my mentor asked me in the end of the May whether I had already started to analyze the data, and I said, not yet. I have just found the good school for my children. And he said, but it's time to start. It's a lot of work. So at that moment, I started on the 1st of June, but not yet. I have not yet finished the preparatory things for the family, so I had to do it in parallel. But it was really necessary to start 1 month later.
But again, it's good to be realistic about when you go abroad, that it simply might be a little bit more complicated, and definitely the situation would be different if you were there alone, if you would be like 25 years old with no family and no husband, so you can start to work probably from the first day. But and this is also what I consider to be quite good about these type of project, that they accept the fact that you go with your family, so they are a little bit more user friendly, and they kind of respect, of course, well, sometimes you have to stretch yourself. After a month, you still would probably appreciate at least 2 more weeks or something like that. But well, that's life. We can't get everything perfect. So anyway, that was the preparatory phase. And because this is not about science, this is more about your experiences as a human being working in science. So is there something that you didn't expect to learn during your fellowship, and at the end of it, you said, wow, I didn't think I would be, for example, that self-confident, that it increased my self-confidence? Because what I consider to be really interesting in our discussions was, for example, the fact that you didn't see what kind of image these type of projects have in the community. You just thought, okay, I got a project, it's nice. And then suddenly you came somewhere to give a presentation, and people were in kind of awe that she has this kind of project. And it was a bit surprised for you. So did it bring also some kind of not measurable outputs in your personality traits, something like self-confidence, improved self-confidence, or awareness of your skills, which you didn't have before? We in our discussion, we, for example, mentioned the fact that you had teaching experience helps you in communicating science to public, because suddenly you could say, okay, I can, although my head is full of knowledge, but I know that different people have different interests, so I adjust the message, and suddenly you started to kind of articulate better the skills and abilities you have in your profession and how you can transfer them from one field to another. And this is the reason why they are called transferable skills. So was there anything significant? Obviously, I said quite a lot of things you already mentioned to me, but would you add something to it? For example, could you tell me about it, this nice experience during Researchers' Night you had during your communication activities? So
yes, yes. As you said, having having this project successfully finished or conduct this project, it increased my self-confidence. And I knew it, for example, in this Researchers' Night, when I presented my project to public, communicated this project, I saw that I'm able to communicate the project easily to people who are not involved in the science and who are not experts, and that I was able to adjust my not lecture but my presentation of the project to their expectations. Some children that passed my stand with my project were just interested in the answer to the quiz that had to fill to get some lollipops or whatever. So they didn't want to spend much time and to go in deep in my project. And so I didn't care, and I was not disappointed by this. And I just adjusted my presentation of the project. And other people were more interested. I spoke a longer time and gave them more information. And there was another colleague who was surprised by the moment when she was presenting the project, was excited by the project, and in the middle of their exciting speech, the visitors passed away, and she was like with open mouth, how they could leave my stand when I am trying to give them the most interesting things of my projects. But I think it was because she was not experienced with teaching, and she didn't somehow guess the expectations from the visitors. So this.
Which is marvelous, because in a way that this is a kind of like basics of communication theory. If I want to transfer a message, I need to adjust the message to the target audience. And this is again when researchers are being trained communication skills. So this is what they are being told. And obviously you have it naturally because you come from the environment when you already learn how to adjust your message to the target audience. So you only just kind of picked from the pocket the skills you already had and transferred it into a different situation. While people who have never experienced it before, so for them it might be a little bit more challenging. So again, this is the reason when you have trainings on communication skills, it probably will have different effect on you if you already have this experience. So probably you would just more enjoy the fact that someone would teach you how to breathe better or how to play with your voice, while someone else who had the experience like you mentioned, well, I think probably she should be trained in some kind of basic principles of communication skills. Well, anyway, so I think, well, we have covered almost everything. We are at the end of your project. We were already communicating your research results. So obviously, and by the way, one more thing. You mentioned that you managed to achieve everything what you planned, even though at the beginning you were a little bit scared that you planned it a bit too challenging. But you said that at the end of your project, you achieved even more than you thought. So tell me how happy you were about your project results at the end of it. What were the new surprising things that you didn't expect to get? And did it move you further, or did it open some kind of, and let's not talk about projects now, but did it open something new for you? Well, anything. So how would you summarize the experience?
To summarize it, it really boosted my career. Yeah, it was really new skills in communicating with other people. Also the leadership, because I was in contact with less experienced students, PhD and master students. I was also evaluator at some events for master students, some competitions. These researchers' nights, I also didn't plan. It was just a thing that came like an opportunity to take part in the researchers' night or the falling wall lab competition, which was in Brussels. And these communication activities and also the activities of discussions with researchers, I think this communication and transfer the skills, all these things made me a better researcher also, I think. Yeah. And also the networking. There were so many people that I met. This also helped me to continue in my research. Nowadays, I'm writing a meta-analysis of my former colleague from the lab. We are continuing in the same direction of the research. We are continuing in the new project. Yeah, so
that's wonderful. So you mentioned again people, the importance of people, meeting new people and experiencing you in all kind of situations. What I heard from you, so you interacting with PhD students, you interacting with colleagues. So, Paul, you seem to be like you are always open to some kind of new experience.
And for my family, it was also very great experience. My children at this age, they could not imagine life in another country. Yeah? For them, it was also a big challenge because they were not learning French before that. My son, when he came to the school for the entrance examination, they tried to test his language skills. He just knew English and German, so they tested him, and he was so confused. And when they asked him, "What is your mother language?" he answered, "Alena." Yeah. So he heard the word mother, so he said Alena, and it was my. So he was really confused in the first lessons of German. He was surprised why the vocabulary is written in German and translated to French. And I said, what did you expect it in Geneva? They will not translate it to Czech. Yeah, you will have the vocabulary from German to French, the translation. So it was amazing experience also for my family.
That's cute. So probably that would be a nice topic for all those alumni networks to collect these anecdotes, interesting experiences that you never expected to get when you were writing your project proposal. So probably that will be a fun book to read, not always those promotional leaflets. So anyway, I'm really, really honored that you were able to join me today because of two things. None of us are professionals in broadcasting or interviewing. So this is again, we are entering new world. And just like I was in my first webinar, Alena was also absolutely uncomfortable with the idea that we would do the video interview. But then because she is a brave woman, open to new experiences, she said, well, I am going for it. And I'm really grateful because I think it was a wonderful interview. And I really hope it is going to bring inspiration to not just me, because it was wonderful to meet you, but also to all of you who plan to write project proposal, not only for postdoctoral fellowships, because I think this explains a lot about the research environment and how to grow in it. So anyway, it was wonderful to meet you, Alena, online. And I'm really, really honored that you wanted to do it with me and that we had such a wonderful time after all.
Okay, thank you very much. Also, I'm also honored. And to the listeners, I just want to say, enjoy writing the projects. It will be visible in the proposal that you enjoyed it and that you want the money.
And probably when you said visible, I would say it would be felt, because you see the words, but you interpret them somehow by your individual experiences and by something that is inside of you. So when I read your words, it's what is inside of me that is important. So if your words relate to how I feel about the world and it resonates with me, then I think we all get better results in project evaluation. So anyway, it was a wonderful time to see you, to meet you, and thank you so much for being such a great and inspiring researcher. And I hope that once we will meet in person as well. Anyway, so thanks a lot. Bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.